Crypto is the opt-out. Crypto is the exit. Crypto is the solution. And so, yes, the markets go up and yes, the markets go down. But there's some directionality to that. The long term, we win. There's 550 million people in the cryptocurrency ecosystem, and there's going to be 1 billion by 2030. 1 billion. The majority of the world's stocks and bonds and equities will be in the cryptocurrency space by 2030. And all of y'all paper hands are just running around. Be like, oh no, the markets are falling, the markets are falling. What do I do? What did I do? We all head for 10 trillion, guys, because trillion doesn't even mean anything anymore. The dollar doesn't mean anything anymore. Everything ought to be priced in crypto.
Found that clip pretty funny, certainly the paper hands bit. And hopefully that's brought you some joy on this Saturday morning, or at least it is the morning for me. Good morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever you are. Welcome back, guys, for another daily market update. And the sentiment is pretty bad right now. There's one sort of takeaway besides that opening clip being funny. There were a few sort of realities in there, one of which is in regards to stocks and the direction that they're going in with tokenization. I had a great call with Centrifuge yesterday. And we actually spoke about one of the real drivers for tokenization is actually DeFi and the use of real world assets to get a higher yield and to kind of change how yield is generated on them via DeFi. There was also the kind of longer arc, the adoption that's going to only continue, the broader trajectory, the whatever we are, just under $4 trillion today, going to 10. These are all things that I think comes to pass. And it's always the same whenever there's a pullback in the cryptocurrency markets. Right now, markets are in extreme fear. And I can't help but feel like it's not that bad. I ultimately feel like there's a lot of over-exaggeration. I think maybe because of social media, because of headlines. X is pretty toxic right now. It's very much turning into Instagram also, which is an interesting shift. But there's a lot of kind of toxicity out there. I really don't think the picture is that bad. In my personal opinion, I think if you look at Bitcoin, which we're going to be doing later on in this daily market update, it's not such a bad situation. Yes, okay, we are pulling back, but we've had multiple pullbacks just like this. In this bull market that Bitcoin has been in, this is actually one of the milder ones, certainly compared to the last two. And there's always a reason, narrative that accompanies these pullbacks. Right now, I think, and it is a concern, MicroStrategy is in focus due to them going under one NAV, meaning the assets that they have, the Bitcoin that they have, doesn't equal the debt. This can change very quickly, and people can go from bearish to bullish in a matter of one day. So I will be looking at all this with you guys. I honestly don't think the situation is that bad. I think altcoins are really yet to see a traditional cycle. I think this has just been delayed, and I think the special thing for altcoins this time is that ultimately there's going to be real world usage and utility. And there's a few altcoins that I'm looking at that I'm all in on. I honestly believe that these altcoins are technically positioned as technical patterns that give us amazing price targets, but also what they're doing is the trend, in regards to the direction the financial world is moving towards. And I think if you can pick a few of those, you can honestly change your life unbelievably. And when I sort of think about that, that gets me a lot more excited about the cryptocurrency space and the prospects of it than perhaps a lot of the people within the crypto space are feeling. This is just, unfortunately, what being an altcoin investor is all about. Let's talk. Yesterday, we looked at a problem. MicroStrategy going below one NAV. There was lots of rumors out there that they were actually selling their Bitcoin. I don't believe this is the case. I don't sympathize with the Bitcoin maxis like Max Kaiser, like Michael Saylor, although I think he did a great thing reviving MicroStrategy that was a dead company effectively from the dot-com crash. I don't sympathize with them because I think they're naive to the broader application of distributed ledger technology and just refuse to admit that anything exists outside of Bitcoin. Even though there's arguably going to be more impactful technologies than Bitcoin. And Bitcoin is the king right now. I think it's special. I agree with them that it is special. It is the only Bitcoin. But a lot of altcoins aren't trying to be Bitcoin. But I will somewhat defend MicroStrategy right now in the sense that this can change very quickly. I think the cascade people are looking at is probably being hedged right now. And this is just to clear up some of the rumors around them selling. After speaking with Saylor many times and hearing his strategy spelled out by him and large MicroStrategy shareholders, Bill Miller, I'm 100% certain no Bitcoin sales now or in the foreseeable future. This is from Walter Bloomberg. Akram, Saylor strategy cuts Bitcoin holdings by 47,000. Akram data shows Michael Saylor's strategy reduced its Bitcoin holdings from 484,000 to about 437, a drop of roughly 47,000 BTC. It's unclear whether this came from transfers or sales. This is the first. There's no truth to this rumor from Saylor. I don't think he can publicly lie about what his company's doing, because there will be filings and there's sort of a legality to all of this. So I'm going to choose to back him up and say that they're not selling. I don't know why people are so zealous on other people failing. I mean, I'm not the biggest fan of Michael Saylor, but MicroStrategy clearly technically here is in trouble. There's a risk of this playing out again. However, we shall see. What we need to see, we did say you'd come down to these levels and likely stop, is real strength coming for this to be fixed. If not, there's going to be a hurt locker. But I don't think that MicroStrategy's plan is to sell Bitcoin and lower their NAV, affect the price and lower their NAV. We'll see how this saga unfolds. There is rightfully, I think, concern around the whole situation because, 500,000 Bitcoin hitting the markets if it was forced to liquidate, I don't think that would occur. That's not on my bingo card, but who knows? And we have been looking at this kind of alt season with BTC DOM entering phase 4. This perhaps isn't the one that we wanted. Bitcoin having internal issues and altcoins just holding up better than it. But the good news here is that BTC DOM, if you're an altcoin investor, is now coming down, meaning that altcoins are going to outperform Bitcoin. This is typically symptomatic of a bull market. Like I say, we don't want the reason this happens to be MicroStrategy has to liquidate. I don't think that's likely, in my opinion, personally. But, there's always narratives to look at and reasonings and rationales. I still believe this is coming down, and this is following exactly what we've effectively said. Again, back to my comment at the start of the video, I honestly don't believe this is as bad as people are making it out to be. I think when you look at Bitcoin, it's not such a bad chart. If we look at the altcoin sector represented through the lens of total 2, so everything excluding Bitcoin, this has generally been in an uptrend. Yes, there's been brutal pullbacks. It's been choppy, but the broad direction for the market, we've got very right after accumulating heavily in 2022, 2023, or the back end of 2022, 2023. We're still progressing and nobody's getting liquidated. If you follow this channel, I honestly don't think the picture is such a bad one. I think there's a lot of over exaggeration. It's perhaps fatigue. It's perhaps people not basically sticking their money at the start of the year and then becoming a multi-millionaire by the end. Sometimes the markets don't work like that, and we've got to roll with what we're given. But again, I like to put this into perspective. Bitcoin's only down 23% today from its high, just shy of 26,000. It's had deeper pullbacks and recovered from them this far. And I think this one is going to be the same. And we did look at, before we talk about the death cross, the dreaded death cross that has actually been very bullish thus far, this falling wedge as a potential. And we did look at this. It did slip slightly below it, but I do still think that this absolutely could be intact. We shall see. What you want to do is get back in here and start to progress, and we'll see what the week ahead brings us. There's not a great deal happening. Just to pivot to this in the week ahead, you've got some probably PMIs are the main thing to watch, certainly US PMIs. But we'll see. The Ethereum falling wedge is one that I like significantly better. This has now got to where we wanted it to. I do think we could see a turnaround here and a real still good run into the end of year. We just need to see all this come into effect. So BTC DOM is, I think, a good sign what's happening. I think the reason it's happening kind of like this is you had Bitcoin selling off yesterday, but actually altcoins not selling off as much, which is not atypical. I think this is to do with Saylor, and this is a situation to watch. We'll be keeping you up to date on it every single day here on the channel, so don't worry about that, guys. There's a lot going on. We're not going anywhere. We still believe in the opportunity that cryptocurrencies have to give, truly. And we shall see what happens. I want to talk to you guys about the death cross. This came across my desk this morning. Lots of people asking me about the death cross. And we'll cover it if we go to the daily. So it's the 50 daily moving average, simple moving average in this case, and the 200. And the death cross is where your smaller EMA basically crosses or goes under the longer time frame EMA, which you expect to be a little bit more slow. And you are about to have one. Could probably take this drawer off and I can add it back on here. You had one here, which basically signaled the bottom of the pullback. You also had one here, which signaled pretty much the bottom of the pullback, and you had one here. Every time you've had one of these, the markets have rallied out of it. Looking at those falling wedges, are we going to get a similar thing? We shall see. But I do think those wedges could be setting up a pretty explosive back end of the year. And we'll see if these things come to pass. I'm still very bullish on the total market caps. I'm bullish fundamentally on what's happening here. We have great conversations daily. It's just a case, I think, of waiting it out and seeing what happens. Again, the week that you've got ahead of you isn't a particularly busy one. Just the last little bit of news. This was from CNBC yesterday. Warren Buffett's Berkshire Hathaway reveals new position in Alphabet. So Warren Buffett is now buying. To make this, or to give a little bit more clarity on this, it's only $4.3 billion, which is a hell of a lot of money. But compared to Buffett's cash hoard, perhaps not so significant. So hang in there, guys. I still believe that crypto has an amazing promise, truly. And I think that if you can persevere, if you can position yourself now for tomorrow's world, which crypto is clearly going to play a major role in, you're going to do just fine. And I honestly think that a lot of the sentiment is kind of like, a kind of doom spiral in regards to perhaps X and other things like that. Crypto, being an altcoin investor, this is the reality of it. Everyone wants those big returns. Nobody's willing to sort of suffer the route to get there. That's it from me, guys. I'm going to love and leave you. Thanks, everyone, for watching, and I'll see you all in tomorrow's Daily Market Update.